Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
I'm Requiem. Cam, what have we talked in the past about you hanging out with my brother, Fang, and when he says nothing has happened to me, what that means?
I'm trying to remember this conversation, but the only thing I can remember is Fang Requiem telling me not to worry about it, and there was this hypnotic look in his eye, and I can't remember anything else after that. That's just sort of completely overridden every other memory I have on the subject.
It took me a week to get out of that dungeon. You were supposed to come find me if this happened again. I've had to kill so many skeletons, and you know how afraid I am of skeletons.
I mean, I want to promise you that I'll do better next time, but, like, have you seen that guy's eyes, though?
My brother. I'm not really impressed by his eyes. You didn't give him any more of your blood, did you?
No. See, because now that he's not here, that seems like it would be a pretty obviously foolish thing to do. Although, for an unrelated reason, I do need to look up whether or not PayPal has any, like, fraudulent delivery, reports that I can make. Like, maybe for just any transaction that I want to claim, entirely honestly was initiated by someone else, and maybe reverse that transaction. And for equally unrelated reasons, I do note that I have plenty of marrow, and blood is replaceable anyway, so even if I had, it wouldn't be a long-term problem.
You know what, Cam? We're putting you back on the all-garlic diet.
Look, garlic bread is only so good for so long. This is just... I feel like this is unfair.
What? You said last time you learned your lesson, so clearly you haven't, so you're back on the all-garlic diet.
So...
We're just in Alice in Wonderland world.
Yep, no, we hopped into our spaceship, we flew to another world, and now here we are in the other world.
Oh, my fur and whiskers! I'm late! Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear! I'm here! I should be there! Oh, I'm late!
So, it kind of depends on how you define fantasy as a genre. By some interpretations, you can have Alice in Wonderland as the first fantasy novel. Older fantasy tends to have some sort of, to be portal fantasy, to have some connection to the real world, as well as being more focused on children's literature.
Yeah, I do believe that Alice in Wonderland is the first portal fantasy, like, just flat out.
How did
Like, I don't
it get
think
so
there's...
small?
No, you're
outside of,
too big.
outside of certain mythologies
Must
and
you
theologies
be so
and stuff,
loud? You woke me up.
where
Good morning. Good night.
the idea was not so much that you were going into another world, so much like, you know, when Greek heroes went into the underworld, that was literally just going underground. Like, there were certain caves you could go into, allegedly, that would take you into the underworld. You know, it was just a place where Hades hung out. It was part of the physical world. Alice in Wonderland is, I believe, the first known story about someone traveling into a clearly bizarre world. Depending, of course, on
Like,
the exact definition. There's fairy worlds and
use
stuff.
fantasy elements in older literature, but it's just sort of like before disenchantment is set in. That's how they sometimes think the world is. Like a ghost just shows up in Hamlet. There's just witches and Macbeth. It's not because this is a this. It's because Shakespeare lives in an enchanted world where ghosts and witches are the thing.
Right. Which is why Alice in Wonderland sticks out, because it is relatively early on in the era when the idea of the fairy world literally being a place you could just walk into was no longer considered like, yeah, like fairy world is not an otherworldly alternate dimension. It's in that forest over there. Like, you go in that forest and the laws of physics go berserk.
Like, even some of the, like, the early fantasy, like, it tends to have, like, in the backstory at least, like, some sort of connection to Earth, like, Hyperborea is just supposed to be our mythic past, and, like, Middle Earth is just, like, to be, like, the legendary past of England. Even, like, into the 70s, because, like, Shannara's deep backstory is that Shannara's past is our world. It's just Shannara's the real world in the future. And magic comes back. I don't know how much that... I know that's a plot point later in the series. I don't know if it's explicit in, like, the first book.
And it does seem to be, like, just sort of blind Tolkien copying. Like, Tolkien gave his world a connection to the real world, I'm pretty sure, just sort of out of obligation, because that's how you do fantasy in his era. And then a couple of other fantasy worlds did it because they were copying Tolkien. And I think it took a while.
Very much in that.
Yeah, like Shannara was copying Tolkien on a lot of things, which is what makes me pretty confident that they were copying Tolkien in that place as well. How do I get out of this room? I forgot.
Shannara also always struck me as being, and people will say this about a lot of fantasy, and kind of stretch it to claim this, but Shannara has always kind of struck me as being very Dungeons and Dragons influenced, and D&D comes out in 74, Shannara comes out in 77, so I don't think it's completely implausible that, like, Terry Brooks was talking about his D&D game.
Right.
I've seen people claim this about Game of Thrones, and they don't look water at all.
Yeah, no, Game of Thrones is D&D influenced only to the extent that it is a fantasy story of any kind. Here we go. Okay, I got this figured out.
But Shannara, usually there's one book where it basically feels like a guy doing like a very old school with traps and treasure.
Court is now in session.
I'm on trial? But why?
Her Majesty, the Queen of Hearts, presiding.
So since each one of these little worlds takes up like an hour or two of gameplay tops,
There's no doubt about it.
and a lot of that is just smashing Heartless,
Because I say so,
they do
that's
kind of
why.
have to just
That is so
ram you
unfair.
through the plot really quick.
Well, have you anything to say?
Isn't this like
in
the
your
end of
defense?
Alice in Wonderland, though?
But yeah, for Alice in Wonderland, though, it works out fine,
Absolutely nothing
because it's
wrong.
just a string of
You need a
disconnected
queen,
vignettes.
But I'm afraid that
So if we
doesn't
wander into the
right
final
to be
vignette,
so
nothing was lost.
mean.
That is
Silence!
true.
You dare defy me?
Like, the plot is actually kind of fleshed out here.
We should help her out.
Blah, blah, blah.
We're outsiders, so wouldn't that be muddling?
Blah, 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 blah.
Fuck the law.
And that's against the rules.
Court finds the defendant
Fuck the rules, I've
guilty
got a
as
keyblade.
charged for the crimes of assault
I mean,
and
there's
attempted
also the thing where, like,
theft by
diegetic,
Off with her
presumably
head!
Sora does not know the story of Alice in
Hold it
Wonderland.
right there.
So as far as he knows,
Who
like,
are
she is
you?
legitimately
How
committed.
dare you interfere
crime.
with my court?
Well, what does prompt him to
Excuse me,
intervene
but
here
we know who the real culprit is.
Uh-huh.
is
It's
that
the Heartland.
when she says that
Anyway,
the
she's
the
not
crime
the
was
one you're
attempted
looking
theft of
for.
her heart.
That's nonsense.
So
Have you any proof?
he's like, hang on, we know who's doing that.
I mean, Alice could be a Heartless. Like, he doesn't actually know. And also the thing where, like, stealing hearts could just be a thing that happens
It's
naturally
true.
without the Heartless.
I mean, the trial seems like it was pretty obviously, like, she was not being subtle about running a kangaroo court. Like, her evidence of Alice's guilt was, because I say so, that's why.
Are you questioning the authority of Absolute Monarch?
That's, like, my hobby, man. What do you mean, if you know who the real culprit is? We know who the real culprit is.
Chamomile.
That's not where I was going with that. But...
Don't you make a cameo in this game? One like interpretation of Alice in Wonderland is that it is essentially Lewis Carroll criticizing concepts that were new in math of the time and trying to essentially do a reductio ad absurdum. I'm not super familiar enough with math and logic to like point them out, but it is an interpretation I have heard. A lot of people just think it's about that.
I have heard the same interpretation. I don't actually know enough about math to have any idea if that's accurate. Because, like, the math that he was defending was, you know, the level that I know. And then the weird new math that he's criticizing is the level where I don't have a goddamn clue. So, like, I assume, just because we seem to be doing pretty well with our new math, I'm pretty sure his objections were ultimately not valid, but, I've been a little bit nervous about this for a while now, but Wonderland seems to be even noisier. I'm going to turn down the volume. Which, by the way, viewers, whenever I want to do any function on the computer, I have to unplug my controller and plug my mouse in, because I only have 2 USB ports and one of them is for my mic. Okay, game should now be, like, barely audible, but there's subtitles, so that's fine. Actually, I'm a little bit nervous about the audibility of the earlier episodes, but it should be fine. I'm sure it's at least you can make it out at all. Maybe I shouldn't be so sure about that, having not yet listened to any of them.
And it's not like we're under any sort of curse.
I have no comment.
It's not like I ever offended the Goddess of Fortune at any point. She has perpetually interfered with our attempt content for YouTube.
I'm gonna bring up how the Jade Empire recording ended again. Granted, the monkey's paw was involved with that one, which feels like it was kind of provoking Fortuna a little bit. I am really glad that I dug out a PS3 controller plug-in for this, though, because I am not interested in doing this janky-ass platforming with goddamn keyboard controls.
It's interesting that, like, it seems like there's a lot of attempts at, like, dark interpretations of Alice in Wonderland specifically. Like, why people go back to it out of children's literature and always want to do the dark version, because there's, like, Obviously, there's like American McGee's Alice, but like there's also
Tim Burton did it.
Tim Burton. There's a they reference Alice in Wonderland in the whole movies.
This should help.
Alan Moore includes it in Lost Girls, and she's kind of the first character introduced. Alice by Christine Henry does the dark version. Like, it seems to be like there's dark reimaginings of lots of children's literature, but like Alice in Wonderland specifically seems to get it a lot. I don't know if that's like, is it because it's important because it's the first portal fantasy and basically the first fantasy novel, or is there something about it that people look at and go, oh, there's dark imagining that you could do with this really easily?
Damn, I cannot seem to get the jump button working right on that jump. But to your point, though, I think the reason why Alice in Wonderland gets so many dark interpretations is because it is this nonsense world, and that is off-putting. It actually accidentally has this undercurrent of horror already, where just because nothing makes a whole lot of sense, and, you know, anything could happen at any time, and it is frequently, you know, a fair amount of minor misfortune befalls Alice during her misadventures in Wonderland. So it's very easy to imagine that, like, you know, okay, take that basic conceit, now add some chainsaws.
Well, a lot of the reinterpretations seem to go with Alice having some sort of mental illness or being in an asylum, like Madness Return. American McGee version does it. Tim Burton one does it in the second movie. The Disney show. What was that Disney show where they did all their characters?
Only thing I can think of is House of Mouse, but I don't think there were any dark reinterpretations of anything in that one.
No, but they did a spin-off where it was Alice in Wonderland, some sort of psychiatric hospital.
Oh, no, because Disney didn't do that one. You're thinking of Once Upon a Time, which was not produced by Disney. I honestly don't know why Disney, you know, infamously litigious Disney, let them get away with that. But yeah.
No, Once Upon a Time was on ABC. It's so it is Disney.
Is it?
Yeah, it's ABC.
Because I seem to remember
Which is
there was
why-
some kind of copyright kerfluffle. Like, there were things that the show wouldn't do for copyright reasons because...
Well, in the later season, they really pushed the Disney interpretations of stories. So, like, their version of the Snow Queen is Frozen instead of the Snow
Right.
Queen. I think, like, the one issue they would run into is with Wizard of Oz, since that has been so influenced by the movie, and they don't have any they don't have the rights on the movie. Like, the book is pretty different from the movie, like the witch having green skin and like the slippers being ruby instead of silver. Like, the witch in the actual book is like a cyclops, and she uses a magic helmet to command the flying monkeys, which nobody uses when they do anything with Wizard of Oz anymore.
I've never read the books, so I was not aware.
When I was like in middle school, I think I read every single one of the books. I don't remember from like in the actual books how Dorothy is described. Like, I think maybe Baum changed her description. Like, in the first book, she's got the classic like dark hair in braided pigtails, but in all the other books, she has short blonde hair, and it's really annoying. Because I'm like, I'm going to picture her as having long, dark brown hair, not short blonde hair, and I don't care what she looks like in the illustrations. Like, I'm fine with everything else, but I'm not changing that in my head. Another thing in it.
So we got 3 pieces of evidence, and the last one's kind of annoying. So,
Also, when Dorothy first gets to the Emerald City, they make her put on gold glasses because the city is just so radiant that she wouldn't be able to look at it without the glasses. It turns out the city's not actually made of emeralds. It's just everyone, once they get in the city, they have to wear these emerald glasses.
yeah, I do remember hearing about that, and that is like a much more fun interpretation of the Emerald City.
Because the wizard is ultimately just a con man, so...
So yeah, I've only got 3 pieces of evidence instead of 4, but I mean, you know, how important is justice really? I mean, do you want to go? I'm not super impressed by your cards. They apparently can't even beat up Heartless because I had to go do it for you. So yeah, we have a 3 in 5 chance of...
Well, and as you know, I am blessed by the goddess. So this is definitely going to work out.
Goofy, you were responsible. Well, the important thing here is that Alice is not guilty.
So Sora was never going to recognize the authority of any legal institution. Sora believes himself to be a power unto himself, not beholden to any law of God or man.
So, you know, Goofy is apparently guilty of the crime, but for some reason they still make a big old tower that hoists Alice far out of.
Well, she's an innocent. She has to be protected from your depravity. I do want to see Goofy face justice for his crimes.
Okay, I'm gonna need you guys to die now.
It's like in Caps, how the Cavity has committed every human crime. Which, the implications of that.
This should help. Fire!
The Queen of Hearts, you can tell, has some extremely varied dialogue. I don't know how much you can hear, but she's repeating like the same combat bark every couple of minutes.
I cannot hear her at all, so...
Well, you're lucky. Yeah, she is infamous for how repetitive it is. Especially because, like, she'll sometimes get in a loop, which I think is a glitch. But she'll sometimes get into a loop where she will repeat the same combat bark over and over again, a couple of times in a row.
I mean, can she just say off of their heads and, like, that'd be pretty in character for her?
Well, she does. She shouts, "Get them, you fools!" And she will just keep shouting that.
Oh, I just heard it. And it's very annoying.
Yep. I'm so glad I could share this with you. Oh no! So yes, the Heartless have kidnapped Alice. And then after the battle, her immediate response is, "You fools," and she then orders the fools to get them. But now the them has changed.
I mean, this whole interaction has really been a testament to the efficiency of absolute monarchy. Like, I'm converted.
Yeah, I'm going to the wrong place, aren't I? This place is where the boss fight will happen, but I've got to go do another thing to trigger it. See, it's too dark here right now. I have to go turn the lights on. Alice in Wonderland, I think, makes a particularly good video game location, although Kingdom Hearts does not make an especially good use of it. But, you know, it's already full of a bunch of bizarre shit, so you can add more basically at will. It's already split up into a whole bunch of vignettes that make for great individual regions or levels. Like...
You can have all the weird video game stuff be completely diegetic, too. Because it's Wonderland.
Right.
Stuff is just like that.
Like, you can just have power-ups. There's already potions and cakes that make you grow and shrink. So... like, a fire flower would be totally normal in Wonderland.
And I assume that in this game, there is at some point a branching path where you get to choose to side with the Heartless, right?
I mean, obviously.
You're just so cute.
What are we gonna do? Make a video game without moral choice branching paths? I mean, it has basically no impact on the plot, obviously, but... since, you know, regardless of whether or not you side with the Heartless, you ultimately have to overthrow King Mickey's tyrannical regime one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like, the Cheshire Cat is supposed to be speaking in riddles, but, like, once you have the context, they're actually very straightforward. It's like, oh, the upside-down room, what could that mean? And then you get deeper in, and there's literally an upside-down room.
I guess they did not have Lewis Carroll working with writing.
He was involved originally, but there was some kind of dispute related to the compensation for the medium. I'm not okay with how low on potions I am. I think I chose the wrong stats in the beginning, I'm pretty sure. At least I'm with a flat leveling curve, right?
Yep.
So there's not going to be any point in the story, you know, early or late, where I'm just hideously underleveled.
Not that that has ever happened to us doing one of these Let's Plays.
I mean, not so far as the audience knows. And, you know, thanks to those mysterious fires and all those mysterious deaths and the weird thing with the blown-out amp and the water cooler, and for so many other reasons, the point here is that no one is ever going to see the Jade Empire playthrough. This game does like to throw just gobs of Heartless at you.
Yeah,
It seems to be their way of raising the tension.
It's hard for me to tell since I'm just watching, but I don't know how like enjoyable the actual gameplay is.
I mean, it's fairly responsive, and so it's reasonably fun to play. Especially now that I have a dodge roll, I haven't been making great use of it, but like having the option, at least when I get hit, it usually feels like, oh, that's right, I have that now, I should use it. As opposed to, like, you know, golly, wouldn't it be great if I were playing with a full control scheme?
It's kind of like Dragon Age Inquisition had the endless waves of enemies. So irritating. But the other part of that issue was, not Inquisition, but Dragon Age 2 really had an issue of doing endless waves of enemies every battle. But the issue with that was, like, BioWare could not decide whether it wanted to do an isometric RPG, action RPG, and kind of tried to do halfway. They did this with Inquisition 2, and it just ended up not working on either level. Gameplay in Inquisition was monstrously unfun.
Yeah. I never played that one, but that tracks with, you know, the other BioWare games. Gameplay has never been their strong suit. Kingdom Hearts is, you know, a relatively simple action RPG, but it does work.
I really think the issue was they were trying to both simultaneously be an isometric and do that at the same time.
Yeah, I think Kingdom Hearts' biggest problem is probably just that, like, there will come a point in every world where it's like, aha, the tension is ramping up now, and that is when you'll enter an area that just has a huge mob of Heartless that you will fight for like 10 or 15 minutes. It's like, there goes the pacing of that story. I guess it's just as well.
They're all so adorable.
I already know how that story goes, so...
They're all so adorable that, like, you hate to beat them.
I do really love the Heartless designs. They are fantastic. Like, you can immediately tell that it's a Heartless, even outside the context of Kingdom Hearts, you know? That's right, I don't actually have to use magic. I can just touch it and it turns on. That's how that works. But yeah, you can immediately tell when something is supposed to be a Heartless, even if it's a design you've never seen before, even if you're seeing it entirely outside the context of Kingdom Hearts. And it's also got, like, they're a huge variety of them. And, you know, they make new kinds every game, and only some of them are palette swaps.
Always have to have a certain number of palette swaps in the JRPG.
I mean, in fairness, some of them make sense as palette swaps. Like, there are a bunch of different casters, each of whom can cast different spells. And they look the same. There we go. Except for their color. So it's like, you know, the red ones cast fire, the blue ones cast blizzard. And that's fine.
There were just a bunch of Dalmatians of that?
Yep.
Chest?
Yeah, no, that is how the Dalmatians collectible goes.
Are they alive?
I mean, it did not depict them, so... It's probably fine. Are you prepared for this, guys? I sure hope so.
It's fine. You've certainly never lost a boss battle before.
By the way, pro Kingdom Hearts tip. Give all of your potions to Goofy. only give potions to Donald if you have some left over. Because Donald is a little wimp who will go down in the first 30 seconds of every boss fight. Do I have... yeah. So, okay, yeah, I'll have to wait until some more show up. But yeah, I just wanted to compare some of the palette swap Heartless against each other, but we haven't had any yet, so... I probably should have saved.
It's fine. I also like how it looks kind of... It's a Heartless, but also it also kind of looks like it is influenced by Wonderland.
Yeah, they're really good at that. Like, Heartless will match the worlds that they show up in, while at the same time being, like, very identifiable as Heartless. It's just very well designed. Like, I wish I knew more about design so that I could more properly gush about how great the Heartless design is. Yeah, I think it is. I've forgotten now, but back when I still played Kingdom Hearts like 2 or 3 times a year, in like high school and stuff, I had memorized how to unlock the scan ability, because these boss fights get really annoying when you don't know how much health the boss has left. I'm hoping the scan ability was the staff, and not the shield, because if the scan ability is the shield, then we might not see it for a while.
Fine.
I remember I would have to grind Heartless on the island attack scene a bit if I wanted to unlock that before the fight with Squall, but if I wanted to unlock it by the time of this boss fight here for Alice in Wonderland, then that was actually very easy. I could do that on autopilot, no problem. Which is why, you know, having now not gotten that for this boss fight, I'm kind of wondering, where is it? How far have I put that off with my poor character creation decisions? Yeah, Donald is the magic party member, but he nevertheless has an ability called Berserk, in which he does the fuck everything gif.
What a racket.
So,
How's a doorknob to get any sleep?
we did not save Alice, but that's the boss Heartless, so we're done now.
Oh. The whole game?
But no, just with Wonderland.
No.
It's like, you know, our motivation to keep poking around this world was, we need to find Alice. You know, we have to save her from the Heartless. And then we found a Heartless boss, and we defeated it, but we did not find Alice.
That's too bad.
There's something you're missing. What? Oh, I won't tell. Is it Alice? The person we came here to save?
Oh, hey, you learned a spell.
Yeah. And the Cheshire Cat is just like, by the way, you fucked up. And so we just leave.